Hello there everyone, welcome to this week's Gran Turismo 7 Daily Race and Strategy Guide. We're off to Switzerland, we're off to Deep Forest Raceway in reverse, and we are in the Group 3 machinery. Now this race, from every setting that is checkable, is identical to the race we did back in May. So just 4 months ago we did this exact combination with the exact same settings that you can see on the screen there. And it does kind of lend itself to that idea, or that notion that I've put out there, that PD do not sort of sit down and come up with these races in an original format. They basically have a sort of drop down menu, very similar to what we have in the game if you save your settings in a lobby, and sometimes they just select a race from that list if they are maybe in a little bit of a rush or indeed feeling a little bit lazy. Now the reason I suspect that is because we don't have custom slipstream this week. We have real slipstream for Daily Race C, and that's obviously a legacy setting from the last time that we did it. So I'm going to be honest with you, I'm quite glad that has happened. Anyway, let's get into the race action. We are in the RX Vision GT3 concept stealth model from Mazda. We'll fast forward through the start here. We've got 14 laps to get around. We have racing hard and racing medium tyres, and both compounds are mandatory. Of course, we're going to start on the hard tyres here at the back, and we are going to obviously move on to the faster compound of tyre when the race seems to best suit us. However, I only managed to get a few laps of practice in before doing this race. This is obviously a pretty tricky track as well. It's not a track you get to pick up very, very quickly, I would say. And we're going to have a struggle of a race, that's for sure. We're going to have pretty poor pace throughout. The car was incredibly sketchy, not as sketchy as that Audi apparently, and that always makes me laugh when people spin on the first corner on a 20-minute race and immediately quit before they've even finished their accident. I would fine you 2 million credits for doing that, to be honest with you, but maybe that's just me. But yeah, the car was incredibly sketchy, the track felt very slippy. I did put a setup on. I don't know whether it was me just kind of ruining the car completely through the setup that I put on. I didn't change anything too dramatically, but yeah, the car was just very, very nervous throughout, and it really just became a case of keeping the nose of the car pointed in the right direction and seeing what we could pick up, because as you can see, a lot of people are having a few issues with this track, and that was to kind of continue on for the course of the race, with the marshals having a pretty busy time with the yellow flags. But come to the end of lap 1 here, we have made up into P11 with some people quitting and some people crashing. Van Hinten there in an Audi as well, trying to go around the outside of us, but no, actually we had a moment on the exit, so they managed to complete that move there. That's kind of exactly what I was trying to get at with this car being very, very nervous. Coming up to the hairpin here for the second time. This is why I think we're better off having real slipstream than custom slipstream this week. There's just no need for it in Group 3. I get it, Group 1, Group 2, I'm kind of with the notion that maybe custom slipstream is slightly better for those races, because the dirty air is severe and the actual drag or the actual pull from the custom slipstream is nowhere near as noticeable on Group 1 and Group 2 cars as it is in Group 3. But yeah, custom slipstream into that hairpin 14 times, no thank you. Custom slipstream into this corner 14 times, no thank you. These straights are more than long enough with real slipstream. If you can get your car close enough to use the real slipstream, use some tactics, and you can make overtakes in this race. We shouldn't be having all the advantages for the car behind. The car in front that has earned that position either through qualifying or through racecraft should not be disadvantaged to the way that custom slipstream does, or DRS does in your old Formula 1 all too often. But yeah, okay. Anyway, we'll come to the end of lap 2 now. We've still got the car pointing in the right way, but those lap times are atrocious. As we jump to lap 5 here, we've also managed to pick up a 1 second penalty. So we're about to serve that penalty, your penalty line here at the start of the back straight, I guess. And if you get a penalty here, that's a pretty big slowdown you're going to get there. So even a half second or 1 second penalty, you are going to feel that very much because of the positioning of that penalty line. So coming to lap 6 here, we are going to come into the pits. Now we had just managed to keep those cars ahead, 3 cars ahead of us battling there in sight, despite the fact we were very much struggling for pace. But we're going to put the medium tyres on now. Obviously fuel is going to be no issue whatsoever. One thing to note about the pit lane here at Deep Forest is that the white line comes up pretty quickly from the exit of the last corner. So, you know, you have to know going into the last corner you're about to make that pit stop. It's not the sort of pit lane like maybe a Fuji, if you like, where you can leave it a bit down the straight to make that decision to pit. You shouldn't have any issues with the white line on the exit. The white line becomes a dotted line. You can cross the dotted line and then you can get back underway. Do be careful as well when exiting the pits. You're going to have people coming down the straight or that part of the track at full throttle. So, you know, pay due diligence, pay due respect to your fellow competitors, and if they're coming down there, you know, 30 miles an hour quicker than you, then don't be getting in their way. Don't jump forward to lap 10 here. You can see again 28 wins, 28 threes. We're barely faster than we were on the hard tyres here on these medium tyres. The car just very, very sketchy indeed. We're down in P11, but we are about to get a wee position given to us here. I think the GTR just loses it there coming through this tricky last sector of the track and pushes the Audi off the track. So that's going to move us up into P10. I think the GTR possibly on hard tyres as well. So we are going to be able to try and attack them coming out the last corner. We're in the slipstream here. We're not quite close enough, but we are close enough to close up. They don't get a great line through the hairpin, and as we come down the back straight, we have managed to get a Sergio Perez-esque nose into the side there of a Carlos Sainz, and we're going to brake a little bit later, and we're going to make the move to move up into P9. We've got Metal Ape Racer ahead of us in the Porsche, and they seem to be struggling a little bit as well, as after a couple of laps we're up behind them. And coming through this sector here, I could just tell that we had medium tyres versus hard tyres. I was pretty sure anyway. I think Metal Ape spun at the beginning of the race, possibly started on the medium tyres and now is on the hard tyres. We've still got the close attention of the Russian behind us in the GTR, because we were getting held up quite badly on this lap. But exiting the last corner, we're nice and close. We're in that 2 tenths. We get the strongest possible slip from the game at that point there, and it's enough to get us down the inside through the curve there on the inside as well. Gives us the shorter line, and Metal Ape Racer pretty much, you know, didn't make that very difficult for us. Made it as easy as they possibly could without quite rolling the red carpet out, as I like to say. That's going to move us up into P8. And to thank sort of Metal Ape Racer as we came down the back straight here, I did take a wee look behind them, and I decided to try and give them the slipstream to defend that position from the Russian. You know, that's the way it goes. If somebody kind of makes your life easy sometimes in sim racing, then you will try and return the favour at another time, or certainly that's how I've often found things. Now you're probably thinking, was there one last twist in the tail to get us up into the P-Womble there? Not this time. We are going to finish this one in P8. Now, given how badly the race went at the beginning, and given how shocking our pace was, a P8 didn't actually feel like too bad a result at the end of the day. Lots of Porsches up there. It's looking like the Porsche is going to be the car this week. It's got the traction. It's just easy to drive. There's lots of corners on this track where that traction is so important to get the car out of the corner, and that's why I think the Porsche is going to do well. Now we are going to talk about strategy in a little bit of a minute, but before we get there, I do want to cover the strategy options. Very quickly go through them. You have your optimal strategy, which is going to be about 8 or 9 laps on the mediums and 5 or 6 laps on the hard tyres, and then pretty much the reverse of that if you start on the hard tyres. 5 or 6 on the hards, 8 or 9 on the mediums. Whether you do 9 medium, 5 hard, or 8 medium, 6 hard, there's going to be very, very little difference between it. I would harbour you're literally going to be finishing in the same kind of time. So if you're decent on the tyres, you can do that additional lap. If you're not so good on the tyres, then lap 8 might be more preferable to you. Undercut options are there as well. Starting on the hard tyres, you can pit as early as lap 1, I guess, for the right car. Lap 2 for the right car if you're good enough in the tyres. Lap 3 and 4 definitely a possibility as well. Of course, you're going to be suffering on the tyres towards the end, but the kind of 2-3 laps you might get of undercut from medium tyres versus hard tyres should get you 3 or 4 seconds down the road, and that could be enough for you to hold on. There's always, with this new tyre model, there is always, you know, checks and balances, which is exactly the way it should be. And the last thing I want to cover in this one is the question at the top of the screen: do setups matter? Now, it'd be very remiss of me to say no, they don't, but I will tell you my experience. I did about an hour of messing about in time trial. I tried all various different kinds of setups from one extreme to the other, from what was supposed to work, from neutral, from just using the default. And pretty much all my base times were within margin of error of about 2 to 2.5 tenths. So from my experience so far, setups don't appear to be that important. From what I can gather watching some streams this morning, some what other people are saying, they're not finding setups to be that critical either, but maybe that will change as the week goes on. So don't lose too much sleep over setups in this one, is what I'm trying to say. The default setups seem to be pretty usable, but that's all I've got for you folks. Appreciate you watching, and I'll catch you on the next one. Goodbye now.